Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lotus Feet or spiritual master is the only way by which we can attain pure devotion. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of mortal suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment is lotus feet to the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and the Lord and the master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me and give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Take the shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishnupad Brahmans Parivrajacharya Sto Darsat His divine grace. Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, BBT founder Acharya, say the whole world Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Gaudiya Vaishnava Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण कर गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा गुण गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी क्षेत्र की जय। गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय। वृंद देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री गौर निताई की जय। श्री श्रीनिवास गोविंद की जय। श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हदेव अनंत देव की जय। हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। विश्वगुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंद। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। छोड़ दो उसको, छोड़ दो। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jam Vishnupada Brahmans Parivrajacharya Stodar Jatish Divine Grace Abhay Charanar Vind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nidai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 14. Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Srotavya Kirtitavyasya Deya Bhujasya Nityada Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Srotavya Kirtitavyasya Deya Bhujasya Nityada. Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Srotavya Kirtitavyasya Deya Bhujasya Nityada. Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Srotavya Kirtitavyasya Deya Bhujasya Nityada. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Please repeat the translation. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Purport. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above mentioned castes and orders of life, the four processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshipping, are general occupations. Without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagements in these four different principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social status becomes a well known man in human society within a very short time. If he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspapers, sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda. By such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good either for the particular man or for the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. We have broadly discussed this fact from the beginning of the Janmadi Yasha, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1 shloka of this Bhagavatam. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will bring happiness. This is the Bhaktivedanta Purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanajalagaya Chakshurunmilidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nidinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Bhashya Tadeshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jai Srila Prabhupada. So we are reading this verse. This is the continuation of the previous verse. That is why it's starting with Tasmad. Tasmad means therefore. So whenever any verse starts with Tasmad, therefore, means it is continuing. Something has been already said. Therefore, this should be done. So what was said earlier? That whatever we do, any occupational duties, Varnashrama Vivagashaya, it is all meant for Samsiddhir Haritoshanam, for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Samsiddhi Haritoshanam. So that is the purpose of any kind of duty, prescribed duties, discharge of duties prescribed for one's own occupation is meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. So this was discussed earlier. One should satisfy the Supreme Lord. How to satisfy the Supreme Lord? Therefore, Tasmad Ekena Manasa. Ekena Manasa means one-pointed attention. What you should do? Shrotavya, Kirtitavyasya, Deya, Pujyasya. Four things, four activities. Shrota. Shrota means Shravan, hearing. Therefore, with one-pointed attention, Tasmad Ekena Manasa, with one-pointed attention, Shrotavyaha, hear. Kirtitavyasya, glorify, sing. Dheya. Dheya means, here Prabhupada says, remember. So it is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Also, Dheya comes from the word Dhyan. Dhyan means basically meditation. One-pointed attention. Shrotavya, Kirtitavyasya, Dheya, and Pujas. Puja means worship. So, these are the activities, four activities, Shrota, Kirti, Dhyaya, and Puja. How one should do? Ekena Manasa, one-pointed attention. For whom? For Bhagavan Satvatam Patihi. Not for ordinary people. Hear about Gram Megatha, talk about all these ordinary people. No. It should be for Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Which Bhagavan? Who is Satvatam Patihi. He is the protector of the devotees. So this is also another characteristic of the Supreme Lord, that Lord is the protector of the devotees. And when we should do all these activities, Shrotabhya, Kirtitabhya, Shraddheya and Puja. When to do? Once in a week, right? Nityada. Nityada means constantly, every day. So therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So this is the verse. And Prabhupada explains, Prabhupada brings out some important points here. Prabhupada says, any man from any social status become a well-known man in human society within a very short time if he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspaper. Sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. Prabhupada wrote all these purports in 60s. Right, that time newspaper was the only one thing, but there's no social media. Now it has become very, very easy. Earlier somebody has to be glorified means newspaper has to cover the story. Right? And there are few magazines, like famous magazine, this Forbes magazine. Very, very famous, very reputed. And they cover the stories of all, these famous people, entrepreneurs, some celebrities and like that. So it is considered as a big achievement for anyone to get into the name, to get into the Forbes magazine. Right? People spend money, time and so much things. Somehow or other, if they can get into this year's list of all these celebrities, famous personalities, it is considered as a big thing, big achievement. But what Prabhupada is bringing a very important point here, we'll discuss about that. So, in just few years back, maybe a decade back, not few years back, it was I think in 2013, this Forbes magazine, it published two personalities. And what was unique about that was, both of them were the women. Two women. So one of the women was the most successful woman at that time, and another woman was the most influential woman. Right. Their name was published in, I think, 2013 Forbes magazine, and that came. So the most successful woman, she was the CEO of this ICICI Bank, Chanda Kochar. She became very, very famous, very popular for her abilities to bring the business and to run the whole show like that. And this Forbes magazine, they have very robust, very rigorous assessment to get someone into their magazine like that. So everybody was talking about this woman, such a dynamic young lady, and brought the whole banking system into the new heights and like that. But down the line, after a few years, the same lady was found guilty of doing some fraud in the bank. So what all this fame, which, she was so much glorified by all this newspaper and the magazines and all that, she became number one and the celebrity. The same fame just went down in no time. Right? And another woman who was also considered as very, very influential woman. Many of us may not know that, but her name was Chitra Ramakrishna. She was famous for, so you see in 1990s, there was only one stock exchange, that was Bombay Stock Exchange. And there is a big scam happens in 1992. Anybody remembers? Harshad Mehta, everybody knows. Right? It was like 500 crore scam in those days, 1992. So then the government realized, because there was no other body to cross-check or something like that. So there was a need felt for, there is a parallel organization where there is some cross-check happens. So this lady, she established this National Stock Exchange. It was in Delhi. Right? And she was the lady behind all that, all the brain behind establishing in few years she established the whole this national stock exchange, Chitra Ramakrishna. And the same story repeats. She was very, very famous. She became very famous. Everybody is talking about her. And then after a few years, she did a fraud. They're only in the NSC. So Prabhupada is bringing here that sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda. And by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. Right. So yes, people becomes famous. But all this fame, all this glorification of an ordinary person, maybe we should not say ordinary, little extraordinary people. They're intelligent, they're smart, and they have done something which is extraordinary. But this glorification is a false glorification. Because nobody is perfect. They might have some ability, yes, we can appreciate. But they made them like into God. Everybody talks about them. And you can see there's many, many examples like that. I just quoted one or two examples. But you see any field, there are some famous personalities, and there is innumerable examples of those famous personalities who are found guilty of doing some fraud or some scam or some scandal or something like that. Many, many. You just name one field and you will find so many names of these kind of people. Those who at one point became very, very famous, and after a while they are found guilty of doing some fraud or something like that. Right? So either you talk about the sports, politics, many, many politicians, they become famous and then later they found in some scandal and then some cases goes on. Some business people, and then in fact including these spiritual leaders. Not to mention an individual's name, but you can just think in your mind, some names will come in your mind. Some Babas, they're very famous. Suddenly something happened and then some of them are in the jail or some cases are going on. So this is the nature. That is why Prabhupada is saying, such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good. Unqualified person. People are glorifying them. As if they are so great. But they are unqualified for the glorification. It doesn't bring any good either for that particular man or for the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. So glorifying some ordinary people or some special smart or intelligent people is just a waste of time. Because the real object of glorification is Bhagwan Satvatam Badihi. The Supreme Lord should be glorified. That is the real object of glorification. Because Bhagavatam confirms, Prabhupada is saying here, that such activities are a waste of time. It's a false glorification. Why? How do we establish it is false? Bhagavatam says, Harau abhaktasya kuto mahadgunat manorathena asati dhavato vahi. One who is not a devotee of Krishna, Harau abhaktash kuto mahadgunat. What good quality you will find in that person who is not a devotee of the Lord? So they might have some skills, material skills and all that, but that is not the quality which has to be glorified. They are the borrowed plumes. Krishna has blessed them with something. So that should not be the cause for their glorification. They cannot be. There is no good qualities. Because manorathena asati dhavato vahi. These people, one who is not a devotee, one who doesn't follow Krishna's instructions, or scriptures like Gita or Bhagavatam, what has been said about them? Manorathena asati dhavato vahi. They're sitting on the chariot of the mind, manorath. And dhavato, they're running. So mind, in whatever direction it's taking them, they're just running around. So they are the slaves of their own mind. So sometimes mind is good, sometimes mind is corrupt. Mind is not controlled, it is your worst enemy. Right? So this kind of glorification is not the real glorification. It's a false and it's a waste of time. Right? Sometimes we see that many times people they argue that, that's okay, Krishna should be glorified and devotee should be glorified, but you see some outside people, they may not be devotee, they might be little artistic people, but they have some good qualities, so we should glorify them also. So we should go by the standard of Bhagavatam, Yes, it might look that they have the good qualities, so many good qualities. But harava bhaktasya kuto mahadgunat. One who is not a devotee of Krishna is considered there is no good quality in that person. It is just like Prabhupada gives one story. One time the group of thieves, they did some theft and they just escaped. They ran away. So they looted the booty and they ran. And they were running in the forest somewhere in the secluded place. Finally, when they felt a little confident, okay, this is the safe place. So they sat down there with the looted booty under a tree and they opened. So many things were there, some jewels and so much of stuff. Now, the leader of them is saying, now, very honestly, we should all divide among ourselves. So there they're trying to become very honest. Right? This kind of honesty cannot be glorified. So one who already is a thief, and now you're trying to become honest. So all these people, materialistic people, they might have some good qualities, very nice, very, caring, loving, sweet, and all of that. But the fallacy is, just they are not devotee of Krishna, they are already considered as a thief. Everything you are taking from Krishna and trying to be nice without giving to Krishna. So this kind of materialistic qualities are not considered as good qualities. They should not be glorified. So this so-called glorification is a false glorification, as Prabhupada is saying here. So there's a nice story one time. There is a marriage ceremony. And who was getting married? One camel. It was in the forest, in the jungle. So the camel was getting married and he invited all his friends. So all the animals were there, including tiger, and one special guest also came there. That was donkey. He came. And all the ceremony was going on. And nice, everybody is eating nicely, all varieties of food stuff, veg, non-veg. Everything was there. So this donkey was feeling like everything is good. All arrangements are fabulous. Something is missing here. So he says, what is missing? Then he realized there's no music here. Marriage is going on. Without music, what kind of celebration it is? There should be some music. And then he expressed. And then they realized, oh no, we did not arrange for the music. He said, don't worry, I can sing. So then everybody agreed, oh no problem, you sing. So this donkey, he started singing, and what he was singing, he was glorifying this camel, who was getting married. He was singing some songs for his glorification. So he was saying, aho rupam, like that he was singing. And then everybody was just laughing. He said, what rupam, yaar? Camel is not like, it doesn't look beautiful, it looks very odd. And what is singing? Right? So this camel also thought, oh, he's so nicely glorifying, I should also say some good words about his singing. So he was saying, aho dhwani. So this is the story of this modern age. People glorify falsely, for their own, whatever, ulterior motives. So it is same, aho rupam and aho dhwani. None of them are qualified for the glorification. But they just keep falsely glorifying, and it's a waste of time. Right? So Prabhupada is saying here, the tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification. And who's that real object of glorification? The Supreme Being. And that will bring happiness. So there is a tendency. We want to glorify. But glorify the right person. This is very important. So here it is said, Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvatam padihi shrotavya kirtitavyasya dheya pujasya nityada. Every day we should glorify, sing, hear, and remember and worship the Supreme Lord. Alright. If it is not done for the Supreme Lord, then it is just a waste of time. In fact, we see this example in the Srimad Bhagavatam also. We all know the story that how Vyasadeva, after compiling all the Vedic literature, all the scriptures, he was not happy. He was not satisfied. So much hard work he had done, so sincerely, but he was feeling despondent in the heart. And then he expressed that matter to his spiritual master, Narad Muni, and Narad Muni identified the problem. What was the problem? This is the problem. Narad Muni says this, Bhavatanudita prayam yasho bhagavato amalam yena vasau natusheta manye tad darshanam khilam. So Narad Muni said, Sri Narada said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. So much he has written literature. See, Vyasadeva is not talking about all this Gramya all this worldly politics or anything. He is writing literature only, talking about the Shastra. Despite all that, still he is not happy and satisfied. Because Narad Muni is saying, the philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. The purpose of everything is satisfy the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada says here, in the purport he says, dry philosophical speculation even on the transcendental subject of the Absolute have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. So much of philosophy, but there is no glorification of the Lord. There is no attraction in that kind of literature. The compiler of the Vedanta Darshan is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled, although he is the author. So what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedanta which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? Herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the self-same author. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the exclusive glorification of the Supreme Lord. So unless the Lord is not glorified, Krishna Katha won't happen directly. Then all this Gyanis, they keep reading the Shastra. What is this material world, and then 24 elements, so many things. They'll get bored. They'll fall down. Because there's no glorification of the Lord, there's no rasa. There's very little attraction in all of those things. So, Supreme Lord is the real object of glorification. One should not glorify others, and also one should be very careful, especially in this modern age. The social media, earlier somebody wants to become famous, the newspaper has to cover, magazine has to cover, they should write some stories, glorify. But nowadays it has become very, very easy. One need not to be dependent on all those things. Social media is such a medium, you can glorify yourself. You start your own YouTube channel, start talking some nonsense, and then you, sometime, there's many examples on YouTube. There are millions of followers. You listen, they're talking just rubbish. It is not something, even materially speaking also, it's not productive. There's some joke, some bogus, some vulgarity. They'll talk, they become famous, they become celebrity. People follow them, they have millions of followers. Everybody is glorifying, our hero is this Joker. He's our hero. Right? So this is the problem. So there is a tendency always for self-glorification. Puja, pratishtha, labh. It has become very easy nowadays. So even for our practical application, devotee should be very, very careful. Invariably, these things might, creep into our consciousness. That, okay, I am such an important devotee. People should glorify me. They should say, Prabhuji, you are so nice. You are so special. Or if people are not glorifying, let me glorify myself. Do some propaganda. Something like that. So one should be very, very careful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadishakame. I don't want all this kavitam, glorification. No glorification. So one should be very, very careful, very conscious that we are here not for popularity, we are here for purity. Right? Becoming popular is easy, but bringing that purity in the heart, not an easy thing. Very difficult. Right? Many people, you see that they just become popular just like that. I remember when we were in childhood, there was this one news covered for many days and it became a sensation. Everybody in the town was talking about that only. There was one small child fell into this bore well, that hole. Right, and some of you might remember. His name was Prince. I think his name was not Prince, but he was given the name Prince. He became so famous. And all the news channels, they are covering his stories only day in, day out. And people are like so concerned, hey, what happened? Something happened. So the army came and they're digging the hole and they're trying to take him out. And they're putting the camera, they're showing live what is going on there. He became so famous. And everybody was talking about that. And the government also rewarded that family and all of that. So he became very, very popular. So becoming popular is very easy. And then later what happened? Later they found that, after that, suddenly there's a lot of such cases was coming. After like another child fell into another hole, something like that, the multiple cases are coming. Then they found like some foolish people, they're putting their child into the hole so that they might become very popular. Because this prince attained such a, this thing, sensation, so much of attention. They thought, okay, this is an easy way, and then he was rewarded also. So anyway, the purpose is not to become popular. Purpose is to become pure. That is not easy. Even devotee can become popular. So Prabhuji is such a great kirtan, such a great collector, you are such a great, you give such a nice class. People will come and glorify. But one should be very, very contemplative. Then what's going within? Sometimes we should contemplate, meditate. All this clapping is very easy. In a group you said, oh nice service, this service, that service. Just to encourage the devotees. But devotee himself should contemplate what is going on in my mind. Did I develop any little taste for chanting the holy name? During chanting I am just roaming around, wandering around, talking around. But Bhagavatam is saying, Tasmad ekena manasa. So we should try to practice. When we hear all this, we should remember and we should try to apply all this. Ekena manasa means one pointed attention. If not 24 hours, at least the 2 hours when we chant, it should be ekena manasa at least. First of all, that externally you should be ekena manasa. Internally all this is going on. That is difficult to control. Thoughts are popping up and mind is wandering around. Mind wandering around is later thing to control. People themselves are wandering around. So one should think, contemplate what's going on. Chanting, reading time, Bhagavatam time, mind is somewhere, waiting over when it should get over. So this is important. So, ekena manasa, Bhagavan Satvatampati, Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Deya Pujasya Nityada. So this is the purpose, and that is how when we start glorifying the Supreme Lord, sing about the Lord, talk about the Lord, remember the Lord, and that will bring the real peace. I'll read this section from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. Famous conversation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked many questions. I just selectively I will be reading. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked this question. Gana madhya kona gana jivera nija dharma Radha Krishnera prema keli yei gitera marma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked this question. Gana madhya kona gana. Among all kinds of gana, gana means singing. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next asked Raman Rai, among many songs, Jivera Nija Dharma, which song is to be considered the actual religion of the living entity? What song we should sing? Ramananda Rai says, Radha Krishnera Prema Keli, Ye Gitera Marma. Ramananda Rai replied, that song describing the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna is superior to all other songs. So song means singing the glories. So what we should sing? The glories of Radha Krishna's loving affairs. And that's the purpose in the 10th canto. The Bhagavatam explains, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manusham Deham Ashrita. Manusham Deham Astitaha. Bhajate Tadrashi Kida Yashrutva Tatparo Bhavit. Why Lord has appeared? Why Krishna came? Anugrahaya Bhaktanam. To show the mercy on the devotees, Manusham Deham Astita. He comes in the Manusha Deha, like a human. And then what he did? Bhajate Tadrashi Kida. Doing the Krida. He is doing the pastime, the Leela. So what happens? By hearing that, Yashrutva Tatparo Bhavet. One can deliver just by hearing about Krishna. So this is the Shrotavya. One One should hear about Krishna, and also Gana means singing, the Kirti, glorifying the Lord. The next question was asked. Kanara smarana jiva karive anukshan Krishna nama guna lila pradhana smaran. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, what should all living entities constantly remember? Ramananda Rai replied, the chief object of remembrance are always the Lord's holy name, qualities and pastime. So we should always remember Lord's name, pastimes and qualities. And we should contemplate that how much we are able to remember all that. So it's important. Tasmat sarvatmana rajan hari sarvatra sarvada shrotavya kirtitavyasya smritavyo bhagavan nrinam. So this is the Sutta Goswami said in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. That is what we should do. Right. And then further he says, Dheya madhya jivera kartavya kaun adhyan Radha Krishna padam bhuja dhyana pradhan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired, out of many types of meditation, which is required for all living entities? Sri Ramananda Rai replied, the chief duty of every living entity is to meditate upon the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. And then he asks another question. Shravan madhye jivera kaun shreshta shravan Radha Krishna prem ke li karna rasayan. So Shravan madhye jivera kaun shreshta shravan. Out of all topics people listen to, which is best for all living entities? Ramananda Rai says, Radha Krishna prem ke li karna rasayan. Hearing about the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna is most pleasing to the ear. So this is Shravan, then Dhyaya, and then Shrota, and then it talks about the puja also. Upashyera madhye kaun upasana pradhan Shrestha upashya yugal Radha Krishna nam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks, among all worshipable objects, which is the chief? Ramananda Rai replied, the chief worshipable object is the holy name of Radha and Krishna, the Hare Krishna mantra. So this is Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Dhyaya, Pujasya, Nityada. So singing about Radha Krishna, hearing about Radha Krishna, meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, and then worshipping the Lord, and very specifically worshipping the holy name of the Lord. So that is Nama Prabhu, Nama Avatar. So in Kali Yuga, worshipping the holy name by chanting and attentively hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is the purpose, and this should be done ekena manasa, with one pointed attention. So we should contemplate while we are doing all those activities, where is our mind? So this is important here. So it said, Etavaneb lokasmin pumsam dharma parasmrataha bhakti yoga bhagavati tan nama granadibihi. In this material world, the living entity's only business is to accept the path of bhakti yoga and chant the holy name of the Lord. So these are some of the thoughts on this verse. A nice verse, very very important verse. Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagwan Sadvatam Padihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Dhyaya Pujasya Nityada. So the chief object of glorification is the Supreme Lord. Lord should be glorified with ekena manasa, with one pointed attention, and Nityada, constantly. Any questions or any comment? Anyone? Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanande.